and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Woyaya, 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 we are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within. And we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Woyaya, 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 woyaya.
Good morning, and welcome to this online service of Neshoba Unitarian Universalist Church in Cordova, Tennessee. I am the Reverend Beth Lefever, pleased and privileged as always to serve as the minister of this congregation, and I'm so very glad that you were able to join with us this morning. Our opening words are by Walt Whitman. Welcome is every organ and attribute of me and of any person, hearty and clean. Not an inch nor a particle of an inch is vile, and none shall be less familiar than the rest. In this spirit, let us be together in worship. We ignite the flame of the chalice to ever illuminate the urgent question, what does love ask of me today? What does love ask of me today? And now, if you will, please join me in the words for our affirmation of covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
Today's story is entitled, It's Not My Fault. Why is your homework so messy? It's not my fault. I blame my pen. Why can't I read these test answers? I blame my pen. Why is your assignment so late? I blame my pen. Grrr. Why is there mud all over the carpet? It's not my fault. I blame my shoes. Who tracked all these leaves in here? I blame my shoes. Why are there footprints on the wall? I told you, I blame my shoes. Grr, grr, grr. Messy hair? I blame my comb. Muddy face? I blame my soap. Gunkin' teeth? I blame my toothbrush. Missing homework? I blame my backpack. Unmade bed? I blame my pillows and my sheets and my comforter. Grr, 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 grr. Why are you up so late? I blame the moon. Grr. Oh, I think I figured it all out. You just blame other stuff. Easy. Psst. Kid. What? Hello? It is I, your trusty pen. I am here with an important message. Listen, I know you think you figured out how life works, but let me tell you this. You surely haven't. Here's the thing. Blaming everything but yourself, never taking responsibility for your actions, and pointing a guilty, quaking finger whenever you're done anything wrong is a sham. Deep in your heart, you know this. Did your humble shoes really deserve all the blame for the mud, for the leaves, for the footprints on the wall? And I ask you, did your poor backpack deserve 100% of the blame for losing homework you should have been more careful with? Huh? Was it really the backpack's fault? No way! Calm down, dear backpack. I've got this. Listen to me now, kid. Your bed was messy. Not because of the covers, not because of the pillows, but because you refused to make it. Even though it takes less than 2 minutes. Okay? Your face was muddy because you played in a puddle. Not because any deficiency in your soap products. You had gunk in your teeth because you insist on eating junk. And then you don't floss afterwards. There's only so much a toothbrush can do. And blaming the moon for when you stay up late makes literally no sense at all. You know this. Yeah. So, I will simply add, if you continue to blame everything around you for all the things you do, we won't want to be your friend anymore. We won't want to spend time with you. And that thought breaks my heart because I know you're mostly a good kid with mostly good intentions. Whoa, I have pretty weird dreams. I blame my brain. Why can't I read anything you're writing? Oh wait, let me guess. You blame your pen. Exactly. Wait, no. I don't blame my pen. At least not totally. After all, I held the pen. I controlled the pen. I'd say we share the blame 70-30, maybe 80-20. I mostly blame me. Wow. Well, that's not what I expected to hear from you. And while I'm at it, I no longer blame my shoes, my backpack, my comb, my pillows, my sheets, my comforter, my soap, my toothbrush, and the moon. These are simply inanimate objects, at least most of the time, who took the blame while I got away with everything. I'd like to take this moment to apologize to them too. I'm tired of blaming literally everything and everyone except myself. I will try to be better starting now. With that said, I will get back to work on this map. Whoops! Ink! Oh no! Ink! Sheesh! So much ink! Go ahead, do it. Blame your pen. This would be the perfect opportunity. I can't. I can't do it. I probably didn't take good enough care of the pen. I blame myself. Sigh. Well, I'm impressed. Now, please clean up all this ink. It's everywhere. Psst. Hey, pen. Were you testing me? It seemed like a test. Did I pass? You have to admit, that one was sort of your fault, pen. Grrr. Weird day. It's not my fault. We give up.
Our offering words are by Jane Vanier, Canadian philosopher and theologian. One of the marvelous things about community is that it enables us to welcome and help people in a way we couldn't as individuals. When we pool our strength and share the work and responsibility, We can welcome many people, even those in deep distress, and perhaps help them find self-confidence and inner healing. Our morning offering will now be gratefully shared and received. My reading this morning is by Cornell West, philosopher and political activist. This from his 1993 book, Race Matters. In these downbeat times, we need as much hope and courage as we do vision and analysis. We must accent the best of each other, even as we point out the vicious effects of our racial divide and pernicious consequences of our maldistribution of wealth and power. We simply cannot enter the 21st century at each other's throats, even as we acknowledge the weighty forces of racism, patriarchy, economic inequality, homophobia, and ecological abuse on our necks. We are at a crucial crossroad in the history of this nation, and we either hang together by combating these forces that divide and degrade us, or we hang separately. Do we have the intelligence, humor, imagination, courage, tolerance, love, respect, and will to meet this challenge? Time will tell. None of us alone can save the nation or world, but each of us can make a positive difference if we commit ourselves to doing so. The newsletter announced the title of today's sermon as Mostly a Blessing, because I was considering an upcoming birthday and was thinking about the whole time and age thing and such. But then I realized I had somehow missed the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Massacre, which was just this past Monday and Tuesday, and I really wanted to address that monstrous episode in our country's history. So I decided to touch on becoming older while addressing the Tulsa Massacre by saying this. I have been aware of race issues since I was a little kid, though with a lot of confusion and little understanding. And I've been involved in civil rights efforts at one level or another since I was a young adult. But what I have learned is that it all becomes much more appalling to me the older I become. With each new incident of racial or ethnic bigotry and violence that I hear of, I am more and more heartbroken. And if I am not careful, hopeless. We don't have time or room or even the right to feel hopeless because hopelessness gives us an excuse to not act. And there can be no excuses to not act to the best of our abilities, always, to do what we can to make things better. The ugly issues of bigotry, prejudice, hatred, and violence are not their problems, but ours. We are one. We are one people, one nation, one world. Spiritually speaking, especially, and our country has always proudly proclaimed its spiritual loftiness, there can be no greater truth than that we are all one. If not, then what? What? As Martin Luther King Jr. said, what affects one affects all, and injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We know these things to be true. Even the most hateful, bigoted people on this earth, if they are able to think at all, know these things to be true. Some choose to ignore them out of their own greed, fear, or other soul dysfunction, but still, they know. We all know. And so, because we are all one, because what affects one affects us all, and because any and every injustice threatens all justice, it matters that we not only increasingly care, but also act to the best of our abilities to quench injustice, inequity, unfairness, foulness, hatred, violence, and bigotry. We are all one. It is up to us. The Tulsa Massacre of 1921 is a story that was never fully told, even in the beginning. And what little was told in the beginning was very quickly obscured and concealed. You probably never learned of it in school. I know I didn't. But if you watched one of the television specials on the slaughter this past week, I think there were 3 specials, you know that efforts are being made to alleviate that further injustice. That is, the horrific injustice of covering up the violent erasing of an entire community. What I understand of the Tulsa Massacre is that a legally segregated neighborhood of Tulsa called Greenwood District was populated by a number of highly successful African Americans who owned and operated, again, highly successful businesses. So much so that the neighborhood became known as Black Wall Street. White Tulsans became threatened by that success and likely resentful as well. On the last day of May, 1921, a black teenage shoeshine boy got into an elevator with a white teenage elevator operator, female. It is uncertain what happened next, with some suggesting perhaps the young man stumbled and touched the young woman. At any rate, she began screaming, and he ran. He eventually was arrested and housed in the county jail, but the threat of his lynching, even including a suggestion to that effect by a local newspaper, caused the black community to take defensive action. A significant number of armed black World War I veterans were trucked over to the jail to protect the young man, and armed white men met them there, which is where the conflagration began. Many white men, untrained, were deputized, I think that is the correct word, and began to perpetrate massive violence on the World War I veterans and the entire neighborhood. They burned down homes, businesses, theaters, and at least one church. They used guns, rifles, machine guns to shoot people in their homes and in the streets. They used airplanes to drop kerosene and turpentine bombs. Greenwood, or Black Wall Street, was devastated. 35 city blocks were leveled. Estimates of 50 to 300 black people were obliterated. It is unknown for certain how many deaths, because it is believed that many people were buried in mass graves. We had hundreds of people in 1921 just disappear, said current Tulsa Mayor G.T. Bynum. To this day, family members just don't know what happened to them. Bynum is opening an investigation into possible unmarked graves, and others are working to bring this travesty out of the secrecy in which it has been hidden since the beginning. Kimberly Jackson of the KTUL staff wrote in 2019, "It's been called a conspiracy of silence. Something so dark and destructive seemed to disappear from newspapers and from family conversations, as if it never existed." She quotes author, historian Hannibal Johnson as saying, "I think there was some fear in the African American community immediately after these events that it could happen again. It happened once, why couldn't it happen again?" It was fear handed down for generations, a legacy of horror and grief and distrust and almost irreplaceable loss. As one person said, future generations lost more than ancestors. Many lost family success and generational wealth. I realize that I just let out a huge sigh as I am writing this. The horror of it all. The horror of slavery, of violent, bloodthirsty lynchings, often in carnival-like atmospheres, with the latest reportedly occurring in Alabama in 1981, although in the 3 weeks following the murder of George Floyd, 4 African Americans were found hanging from trees in different locations across the country. Jim Crow laws, redlining, police violence against our African American siblings, voter suppression efforts. It goes on, and a heavy, disheartened sigh seems a healthy response. That and action. We cannot become disheartened. As I said, we cannot become hopeless. We can and ultimately will become a better people. And the numbers of us joining in the Black Lives Matter and related efforts would indicate that that is happening. Progress is painfully slow and failures even more painfully horrifying. But remember, we are one. We are one people, one family. And we will fight to the end to protect our family. May it be so. May it ever be so. And amen. And now let us move into a time of meditation, reflection, and prayer. The words for our meditation are by Cecily Taylor from the hymn. Our world is one world. What touches one affects us all. The seas that wash us round about, the clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. Our world is one world. The thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate, we make a bridge or wall. Our world is one world. Its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share. Who are the rich and poor? Who stand or fall? Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed make many holes, but where our hearts can hear a different call. Let us consider these words in a brief time of silence. Amen. And until next week, blessed, blessed be.